What's up, guys? Adampark here, and today I want to talk to you about getting sat. Now, specific for this video, we're talking about being sat within a raid environment, within your raid group. However, more than likely, the majority of us here that have been playing this game have experienced getting kicked or sat within a raid group, within a, getting kicked out of a dungeon, getting kicked out of something pug related, LFR, whatever. More than likely, you guys have experienced this, but again, we're going to be talking about raid content specifically. So there are two reasons why this could potentially occur. The first is your class or your role, too many healers, too many melee, too many ranged DPS, etc. just isn't viable for the raid group, the composition that you have set up. The second reason is that you specifically are not performing where you should be. Numbers aren't high enough, mechanics are being handled improperly, etc., etc. So the good news is when we're talking about your class or role not being viable, unless you're really playing at that top tier, that top echelon of play, this probably isn't going to be a problem. Now, to be clear though, there are exceptions. There are very clear, easy exceptions to this one. My group, for example, my guild had this problem where we were for a while now, melee heavy. We had a ton of melee. And while this was fine for the first few bosses within the Nighthold, once we got to Spellblade, we found that the Mark of Frost mechanic just spread through melee, no pun intended, but like wildfire. It was just wreaking havoc on the melee. They'd run out, they'd run back in, they'd get it again. They'd run out, they'd run back in, the tanks would get it. They would try to maneuver Annihilate and the Mark of Frost. It was just chaos because we had too many melee, not enough range were available to pick up the Mark of Frost. However, we found that when we brought in a few extra range, which at the time, and fortunately now it's been resolved, when we had to pug a couple of ranged DPSers, the problem immediately fixed itself. Immediately. So that situation, something like that is going to be rare, but just to be clear, it's always a possibility that your raid group has too much of something. Too many hunters, too much melee, too many healers. We have this problem in my group right now where we have 4 people that are healing. We don't need 4 healers. So sometimes it's switch to DPS or you can ride the bench for the night, unfortunately. However, the real problem, and hopefully the reason why you're sticking with this video, is underperforming. It's not that your class or role isn't viable. Those are easy fixes. The problem is underperformance when it comes to you in a raid group. Now, the first thing you need to do when this happens, when you get sat, when your raid leader whispers you, when your raid leader says, hopefully they're whispering you. As a side note for you raid leaders, whisper the guy. Don't say it in Discord or Ben or whatever. When they say to you, hey, you need to sit, I'm benching you, hey, you're done for the night, however they do it, the first thing that you need to figure out is why. Now, let's set some ground rules here. This is not the time, when your raid leader says, no, hey man, I'm going to need you to sit for the night, here's the deal. Your first instinct is going to be argue, fight, figure it out. Not the right time to do any of these things. Hopefully your raid leader will give you an explanation. Hey, I need you to sit tonight. You're just not handling mechanics properly. Your DPS isn't high enough. We don't need 6 healers in the raid group. Whatever. Don't argue with them. Oh, yes, we do. This bullshit. Don't argue with them. Don't try to get into this huge discussion. Well, the class mechanics and, I can't. It doesn't matter. Now's not the time. Your raid leader doesn't have the time for it. They're trying to get on with the raid. You are literally holding them up. You are holding back the rest of your raid at this point. However, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, can we talk about it after the raid? Or, hey, is there a reason why? And he says, your DPS isn't high enough. Cool, can we talk about it later? Great. Cool. As a raid leader, as a guild leader in my group, I would be totally cool with that. You need to understand going into it, when this happens, there's a good chance your raid, your guild, your officer leader, someone in that leadership position that's sitting you is probably right. Not all the time, though. I'm not saying as a blanket statement that raid leaders and guild leaders and, leaders in general are right. Because you know what? I fuck up all the time. I make bad calls all the time. But more than likely, they're sitting you for a reason. Unless they're a dick and they're just sitting you just because they don't like you, which you need to get out of that group anyways. You need to leave that guild. You need to leave that group in general. But more than likely, they're right. They have a reason for it. Once everything's done, once the raid has dispersed, once the raid night is over, and this may be, an hour later, it may be the next day, it might be next week, hopefully sooner rather than later, but you need to make a concerted effort to sit down with your raid leader, guild leader, officers, whoever, the person that sat you, that leadership group, and say, hey man, later today, can we sit down for, 10, 15 minutes and just chat about, why you sat me? Like I said, as a guild leader, I am always cool with that. I am always cool with it, and I encourage my officers to do the same. Figure out why you were sat in detail. Figure out what you are not doing that your raid leader, that the people that are forming the raid and leading the raid do not like that you're doing. Underperforming, handling mechanics incorrectly, whatever the case might be. Now, once you know why, once your raid leader says to you, we'll use the example, your DPS is not high enough for what we need and for what you should be doing. You have two choices here. You have two honest choices. The first one is not worry about it, not fix the issue. Continue to be sat and just don't raid. If your guild leader comes to you and he says, look, man, the reason why we sat you last night was your DPS is really low. Everybody else is pulling, and I'm going to throw numbers out there, 400 or 500k DPS, and you're pulling 200k. That's a legit concern for me as a raid leader. You could not fix it. You go, all right, well, whatever, that's cool. Probably not, if you're watching this video, probably not the response that you're going to give, and it's most certainly not the response that anyone else wants. If we didn't want you in the group, you wouldn't be in the group. But we sat you because you're a detriment. We want you to fix this. As a raid leader, I want you to fix these issues. And that's the second choice you have, is to actually fix it. Now, if it's numbers related, fortunately, this one's pretty easy to fix. Do your research. Look on World of Logs to see, what people are doing in Warcraft logs, and check out all the various different resources about your class. Get on the, your class Discord, get on YouTube and look at rotations, and get on the practice dummies and run heroics and run LFR and just practice your rotation. Make sure that you are doing this. Do your research, and make sure that if it's a gear issue related to number, if the overarching issue is your numbers and it's gear related, you're going to have to work twice as hard. Hell, not even gear related. If it's a number issue in general, you have to work twice as hard as everyone else that is at that level. If you are underperforming everyone else, you need to work twice as hard as they are working. And we talked about that in the Getting Back into Raiding video last week, that you have to not only keep up with everyone else as far as getting artifact power and world quests and legendaries and all this stuff, but you also need to fix your numbers, get your gear up, etc., etc. Now, if it's encounter related, completely different mindset that you need to be in. It's not let me focus on myself. It's let me get a more clear understanding of the raid mechanics and the encounter in general. This means you can do things like watch videos. Even if it's watching my videos, the background video with my audio, or finding someone that plays your class. And that's a very easy fix, is get on YouTube and look at Spellblade Allurial Feral Druid, Spellblade Allurial Frost Mage, and just watch a couple of videos and see what happens. Now, you can look at the high-end players, the world first, the top tier raiders. Watch a couple of the normal guys. Figure out how they're doing things. Do your research, read things. Get on Icy Veins. Get on the forums. Read the encounters. Look at your dungeon journal. or I guess your raid journal, your encounter journal. You guys know what I'm talking about. Jump into LFR. This is an easy one. Jump into LFR, jump into a normal pug if your group's running heroic, and play it like it's heroic. Now, some mechanics just aren't going to be there. A lot of the mechanics, you guys know this, are inconsequential, meaning that, you can probably ignore the majority of things that are going to be extremely detrimental and pretty much the stuff that your raid leader is complaining about you not handling. You could ignore it for LFR, but that's not the point. The point is to get the practice in, to understand what things are doing, to understand I can dodge, the balls on chromatic anomaly, even though they're not really doing that much damage, in this difficulty. I can dodge them, and I can practice that, or I can get on ads faster, or I can do whatever. Use this time to practice. I've said this before. I even did a video on it. If you're doing normal, if you are doing normal and you jump into LFR, play it like you're in normal. Don't ignore things. If you're in heroic, play it like it's mythic. Play it like everything that you do or do not do is going to kill you, is going to wipe the raid. Don't ignore things in LFR or normal if you have a hard time with the mechanics, even if they don't matter. And then keep doing it. Even if you're not getting loot, keep doing it. Do an LFR and do a couple of bosses, and then do it again tomorrow, and then do it again the next day, until you have it perfectly, until you can successfully handle the mechanics. And if you aren't ready, be honest with your raid leader. That's something that's super frustrating for me, is to know that I've sat someone, I bring him in the next week, and they fail to the exact same mechanic. We're doing Ellison, and if you can't handle the ring mechanic, if you can't, get out of rings and know, what fast orb and slow orb and how to handle all that, I sit you for it, and you do it again next week, that's going to make me not want to invite you, period, to the raid, because you're not being honest about it. Let your raid leader know, I'm not ready. But you need to understand that if you tell your raid leader, hey, I need some more time, I'm not quite up to speed on the mechanics, you have a time frame. I, as a raid leader, cannot sit you every week for the next month and then bring you in. I need bodies. I need people to fill your spot, especially if you are in a very important role. If you are a healer, if we're down a healer and you just suck at mechanics, you suck at numbers, I can't hold a spot for you. And if I recruit people that fill that role, sorry, Charlie, it sucks to be you. You need to work 3 times as hard. Once you are ready, though, you need to let your raid leader know immediately. Hey, man, I've been doing this. I pugged it a couple of times on LFR. I did a normal pug last night. We did the mechanics perfectly fine. DPS was here. I'm good to go. I'm ready. Let's do this thing. This is your time to prove yourself. Don't mess up. Don't mess up. Don't fail to the same mechanics. Hell, don't fail to mechanics at all, because there is a keen eye on you because you've been failing. And now's your chance to make it or break it. And then overall, you need to make sure, and this is for everybody, even if you are a perfect player, which none of you guys, myself included, are not. We are not perfect players. A lot of you guys are amazing players. You're not perfect. But continue to improve. Can you move things faster? Can you up your DPS another 100K? Another, 1,000 DPS, 10,000 DPS? What can you do to be better? Be critical of the mistakes you make. Fix them before they become issues. And remember that mistakes are going to happen, but they're not okay. And that's the difference between a poor player and a good player, is one that goes, I made a mistake. It won't happen again. I'm going to learn from this. And I made a mistake. Healers, got me back up to full. Whatever. I pulled, whatever. Mistakes aren't okay, but they're going to happen, but you don't have to accept them. You can fix them before they become long-lasting issues and cause headache to your group and your raid leaders in general. So hopefully you guys like what I'm saying here. If you do, you guys know the deal. Hit that like button, hit that sub button. Both those things encourage me so much more than you guys understand to continue to make the content that you guys are watching right now. If you guys have any ideas, anything you want me to talk about, any questions, shoot me a message or leave them in the comment section below. And until next time, guys, I'll see you.